Hello, geometry students. I am so happy to be teaching you this lesson today. I would say that this lesson is one of the top 10 at the very least, maybe even the top 5 most important lessons of the entire year. What I'm teaching you today we will use several more times this year in geometry, but you will also use a ton in advanced algebra in any class really that you take from here on out. So I love teaching this lesson. One, because I enjoy math, and two, because it's so important, it makes me feel good to be helping you learn this. So this is part 2 really of the 3.5 notes. You already did 3.5a, and now we're going to do 3.5b. And the title is Equations of Parallel and Perpendicular Lines. And again, I'm using the symbol for parallel and the symbol for perpendicular. Now, I love teaching this in class in person because I give one person the job of saying what the 2 steps are for every problem, because it's the same 2 steps for every problem, and then they get to teach the class instead of me. I'll probably do that when we go over homework, but so it's not going to be quite as fun, you know, in a video format, but we'll do our best. There's basically going to be 2 steps to everything that we do today. Step 1 is going to be to find the m. Now some of you might be wondering, well, what is the m? The m is what we learned about in our last video. M stands for slope. So when I say find m, what I'm really saying is find slope, okay? Then step 2 is to find the b. Now, I assume that all of you learned this at one point in time or another, but it may have been a while since you learned it. Does anybody remember what the b stands for? What do you think the b stands for? The b stands for, interestingly enough, y-intercept. So it means, where does the line cross the y-axis? I can do a little example here. You do not need to put this on your notes. But if I had a line cutting through my x and y axis, and it cuts through, say, right here at 2 up on the y-axis, we would say the y-intercept is 2. So when we're describing a line, telling somebody where that line crosses the y-axis is considered to be a crucial piece of information. So the reason we need the m and the b is that when we're trying to write an equation of a line, most of the time, not all of the time, but we want it to be in the format y equals mx plus b. So once we find the m, we're going to put it in right there. It is always going to be the number in front of x. And then once we find the b, we're going to put it in right here. It is always going to be the number not next to x that is on its own. So basically, essentially, that's all you need to know. Now, obviously, you need to know, how do I actually execute this? But in terms of what your steps are, those are the only 2 steps. Find the m, find the b, and then obviously, you know, plug them into y equals mx plus b. So let's do a few examples here. I'm going to say example 1, you do not need to write this down, but the question says, write the equation of the line that passes through the given point with the given slope. So I'm not going to have you write that whole sentence like I said. All I need you to do is to put the point, which we're going to say is -1, 4, and then it's telling us that m equals -2. Now let's take a look at this problem. You might be confused and say, wait a minute, she told me that I need to find the m, find the b, but I only have the m. That is correct. You found the m, it's right here, it's been given to you, that's great. But that's only step 1. We obviously also need a b. How do we find the b? Well, what we do is we label the information that we've been given. We've been given the point -1, 4, so we know that x can be -1 and y can be 4. We also know that m is -2. So I'm going to take all the information I have, plug it into my format for a line here, and then I will be able to solve for b to find what b is. Let's do that. I'm going to write y equals mx plus b. I'm going to put 4 in for y. That's from this information right here. I know my slope is -2, so I'll put that there. And the x is -1, so I'm going to put that there. Now please do feel free to pause this video anytime you need to. This is not a race, and so I want you to feel comfortable going at your own pace. Now, when I look at the right-hand side here, -2 times -1 becomes +2. And if I want to get b on my own, I have to subtract 2. So b is going to equal 2. So our slope is -2, and our y-intercept, or our b, is +2. Now that I have those two pieces of information, I'm ready to write the equation of my line. I'm going to write y equals, and since my m is -2, I'm going to say -2x plus, and since my b is +2, I'm going to just say +2. You have just written an equation of a line. Now, we're not going to do a ton of examples because, I don't want these videos to take forever. But this is kind of a basic starting point. We're going to do 2 or 3 more examples here, and then we'll do a lot more when we go over homework together. All right, we're going to do a slightly harder one now. This is example 2. We want to write the equation of the line that passes through the given points. Don't bother writing the directions right down, just write down the problem. Let's do the point, let's see here, -1, -2, and +1, 6. Now, this is more of a difficult problem than the one we just did because look, we haven't been given the m or the b. So I might ask if you were in class, what is my first step? Well, go back to right here. Step 1 is always to find the m. If they have not given it to you, then you need to find it. How do I find m? Well, you find it because you know the formula for slope. So we're going to label both of our points with an x and a y, and then I want to put little ones on the first one and little 2's on the second one. Now I'm going to use the slope formula that we learned about in our last lesson. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to take 6 minus -2 over 1 minus -1. Now I need to turn those negatives into a positive, and I end up getting 8 over 2, or 4. So this is our m. The m equals 4. We're halfway done. Remember, the 2 steps are find the m, find the b. I just found the m. How do I find the b? Can you remember what we did last time on the last problem, example 1? What did you do on example 1 when you knew what the slope was and you had a point, but you didn't know what the b was? Go back and look. See if you can figure out what the next step would be here. Here's the deal. You can pick either point. I prefer to work with positives and negatives. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the point 1, 6 to work with. And I'm going to circle the 1 and the x and the 6 and the y. That's my visual way of saying that x is 1 and y is 6. Okay, so I'm just using, you can use either of the original points you've been given. You're going to get the same correct answer either way. But I'm just choosing the ones that are positive. I'm going to plug in everything I have. This is just like example 1 to find my b. So my y is 6. I'm going to write 6 equals, my m is 4, so 4 times x is 1 plus b. 6 equals 4 plus b. When I subtract 4 from each side, I get that b is 2. b is 2. So I have found my m, found my b. I'm ready to write my equation. We generally write it in the form y equals mx plus b, so we're going to write y equals 4x plus 2. Boom, we're done with that example. All right, so if you guys are still hanging in there, I'm very proud of you. We're going to do, I'm going to say just one more example. I'm tempted to do 2, but I'm afraid I might lose you if I do that. Not because you couldn't follow along, but the video might just be too long. So I'm going to show you how to do the harder of the 2 examples I would have liked to do next. So let's make this be our last example here. Example 3. We still want to find an equation of a line, so we still need to find the m, find the b, but we're given different clues this time. We want to find the equation of the line that passes through the point 1, 7. So on your notes, write down 1, 7, and then write is perpendicular to y equals negative 1/4 x plus 11. Write that down. We're using the point 1, 7, and we're perpendicular to y equals negative 1/4 x plus 11. Now, this is not your line. This line that we've been given is one that we are perpendicular to. So here's how we want to handle this. First of all, I need you to tell me what is step 1. If you're not sure, look back up at the top of your notes, and I'll wait for a second, but you need to be ready to tell me the first thing that you need to do. What is the first thing we do with every single problem? Find the m. Find the m. Okay, so we need to find the m. Let's look at the clue we've been given. We know that the slope of the line we're perpendicular to is negative 1/4. If we are perpendicular to that line, what must our slope be? What must m be? How do the slopes of perpendicular lines compare? Think back to the last notes. They should be opposite reciprocals. Okay, can you figure out what the opposite reciprocal of negative 1/4 is? What is the opposite reciprocal of negative 1/4? You want to change your sign and flip it, so it's going to be positive 4/1. So m equals 4. We've now done step 1, find the m. Now we need to do what? What is step 2? Find the b, right? And it's going to be the same way we have every single time. We put x under 1 and y under 7, circle them so you can see what they are, and we're going to plug in everything that we have to solve for b. So we're going to plug 7 in for y, 4 in for m, 1 in for x. We don't know what b is, so that's what we have here. And again, feel free to zoom in. So we have 7 equals 4 plus b. We're going to subtract 4 and get that b equals 3. We've done the second step. We found the m, that was 4. We found the b, that was 3. So our equation is y equals 4x plus 3. Boom, we are done. Now, this was our last example, but I just want to give you a little hint if you're trying to start the homework. Do you have an idea of what you would do if you've been given a point and a line parallel to the one that you would like to make? In this example, I gave you a line that was perpendicular to the one that I wanted you to create. But what if I told you that I was giving you a line that was parallel? How would that slope compare to the one that you had? In this example here, because our line was perpendicular to the given line, we had to find the opposite reciprocal. But if I had told you we were parallel to this line, what would our slope have been? It would have been exactly the same slope as the other line had, because remember, parallel lines have the same slope. So if your line is parallel to another line, you can use the same slope that the other line had. If your line is perpendicular to the other line, then you need to use the opposite reciprocal slope. Okay? So I know this is a pretty heavy lesson. It's very obviously algebra intensive. It's also extraordinarily important, so I'm very glad you watched this video, and I'm looking forward to working with you in person. Thanks, guys. Bye.